Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 119. Did I mention Bigin? Recorded on November 6, 2020. From Zenatta Consulting, I'm Brett Martin.
And I'm Tyler Colt, and let's get right on into the show.
Yep, just a couple of announcements. Same one we did last week, but we have our upcoming November webinar on Sales IQ. And man, oh man, I'll tell you what, I was diving into Sales IQ this week in a big way. And man, dude, they just keep packing features in there and stuffing stuff into that application. I don't know what we're going to fit in that hour, but there's going to be just a whole bunch to talk about.
At first glance, you think it's just this little chat tool on your site, but then you realize with all the integrations it has, the CRM and desk and the chatbot automations that you can run in there, it's a pretty crazy tool. I think there's a lot to cover.
And there's something I didn't actually put, but there was a little piece in Partner Connect, but in the community about some really, really interesting new little API calls that you can kind of do. And it just new little functions you can pull out based upon when a visitor comes in. You can actually, based on this function, do different things with them. So, I mean, it's a great application anyway. I love it. So it's going to be a good show, but I don't know. That's not the updated logo Linism icon, is it? Don't we think?
No, we're still waiting for it. It's one of the stragglers.
It's one of the few stragglers. That, and what's the other one that's really Forms? Forms is it's jarring. Sometimes
it looks very old, very, very old.
It does. All right, so let's go ahead and kick it off. We've got some little public service announcement to start with.
Yeah, so we have a Authtoken deprecation for analytics and projects. Anyone who's kind of working on development for Zoho, this should be no surprise. They've kind of been phasing out all of the Authtoken usages in kind of pushing everyone over towards OAuth authentication, which is kind of the industry standard at this point. Basically accessing this data through a user token rather than through kind of an arbitrary token. So, kind of an unsurprising update here coming out for analytics and for projects. So basically going to stop allowing new auth tokens to be generated after November 10th for the EU and Canada, and after November 30th for the US. They do highlight that they're going to continue to work there for analytics, for the foreseeable future, but you're just not going to be able to create any new ones. Then over in projects, basically that same update, just phasing out auth tokens. Only difference is for projects, it's going to be starting on the 1st of December. So similar time frame, but just an extra day there. If you do want to generate all your auth tokens, you've got one more day to do it in projects. But kind of just in line with what they've been doing across all the applications, just moving over to OAuth. I think it's good, just have it consistent.
Is it the consistency, or is it truly kind of the security issue that they've been talking about?
It's a security best practice, but it also is, I think it makes more sense for everything to run with that same authentication method, mostly because in one OAuth scope, you can authenticate multiple applications, which you're oftentimes going to want to do. So it's a functionality improvement as well, right? That I can call one OAuth connection and connect to CRM and projects, versus having an auth token for each individual application. So I think they're pushing it for security reasons primarily, but also because it's a kind of better integration experience.
I know I'm not in the trenches with you anymore, but I swear OAuth meant open authentication, right? But why does Zoho have its own OAuth? Is it any different than regular OAuth?
No, it's basically the same thing. It's basically just accessing the API connection through like validated user credentials, rather than through like a system token.
Excellent. All right, and then boy, the Bigin train keeps on rolling. API support now, REST APIs, bulk APIs, notification APIs. It's this is, by the way, the first of I think 4 or 5 Bigin stories we've got this week. So we still haven't really seen anybody adopt this. I was playing around with it. There are a couple of things on the synchronization I got to get back. Bigin team is really, really receptive. And as a matter of fact, I know they listen to the show. So when you listen to the show, let's jump on another call. There are a couple little minor things. One of the things I noticed is that when you're synchronizing deals, it's not synchronizing like attachments and things like that. So there are some other little things, and I don't even know if that's a possibility, which you kind of just want is kind of just some linkage there, right? But this is kind of nice. I mean, this is going to allow us to do a whole variety of things that we could never do before.
Yeah, and I think really, even though Bigin is going to be that kind of simple, streamlined application, it's still important for it to be able to integrate with other tools. It's definitely a requirement. They're giving a pretty good amount of credits here as well, even on the free edition. So free edition's getting 5,000 credits. Express or with Zoho One, you're getting a baseline of 5,000 plus 250 per user. So given again that if you're building a huge, really bulky integration, you're likely going to still tie that to the CRM. This is plenty of credits for taking care of anything that I would imagine most users will be wanting to trigger out of Bigin. So I do like that the limit's relatively high here.
Yeah.
And those are daily, by the way. So 5,000 daily credits.
Yeah, it's a lot to come up against. And then we got our marketplace update. I kind of like it when it's the beginning of the month because we get these, they give us these roundups of what happened in October. It depends on which group you're in. It's like, here's the roundup of what happened in October, or here's what we're doing in November, right? You've kind of got two trains of thought going with the Zoho product teams. But a lot of new extensions, 23 new extensions. 9 of these were for Bigin, which is the lion's share. So we're really starting to see a lot of different integrations coming in. I mean, you can see here, it's kind of where does the Bigin train start? G Suite, Microsoft, Zapier, Flow, Desk, Campaigns, Meetings, Sites, MailChimp, CRM. This is interesting because I guess that was October, right? But I really didn't consider it a marketplace extension. It's more of a internal type of thing. Just it goes on and on and on. Marketplace keeps growing. Just a lot of great stuff here. I haven't looked at this one, but this is the food expense tracker. Manage your staff's daily food expenses. So I don't know who wrote that, but I kind of like it. I think we should take a look at that one. It could be just because it's so random. I think it could be the app of the week here sometime. But if you haven't checked out the marketplace, marketplace.zoho.com, there's different extensions for virtually every single Zoho application, and it's definitely worth taking a look at. All right, and then moving on, some really cool CRM blueprints updates that they added in here. Big ones are, parallel transitions and widget support. What do you think?
So super, super cool updates. Parallel transitions basically being that, you're not just going to have like one step that's going to move you from point A to point B, right? Where blueprints kind of previous to this were only really able to run with just one specific way to get from point A to point B. But parallel transitions, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can basically see they have an example here, that between confirming something that's scheduled and kind of moving to the next step, they have this parallel transition for logistics prep work, right? And so there's all these different transitions that need to happen, marking that that's been done before you actually move on to that logistics stage. So there's kind of a lot of times where this is going to be the case where, you don't just have as simple of a process as, point A to point B. So definitely nice to see. I will say the one last thing, they've done a ton of really cool stuff. So I want to give proper kudos. The one last thing I'd love to see is decision-based transitions. So if yes, allow this transition. If no, allow this transition. I would imagine it might be something they're looking at. It's a little off the ball, and they've definitely done great stuff there. But that's the last one that I think would really make blueprints something special. And then another update here that's super nice, along with Zoho seeming to add more and more widget support for everything, whether it's click, mail, across the board. They're now allowing widgets that can be popped up as part of a blueprint transition. That is super, super cool. They give an example here of, kind of mandating a closing date inside of a deal and having it pop open a specific calendar blueprint, or actually popping up a map widget that you're able to select an address as part of mandating location.
That's really cool.
That's very, very slick. Very, very slick. It's definitely good stuff here. I think the last couple rounds of these blueprint updates have been really, really nice to see. A couple other little minor things. They've added multi-selects and multi-user lookups as something that you can require in a Blueprint transition. And they've increased the number of fields that you can require in a transition. So they've brought that up from 10 to 20 for the Enterprise Edition, which I've only bumped up against that once or twice. But the more the merrier, right? It kind of just enables you to capture everything you need in a certain transition.
Yeah, the interesting part about this, and they're doing a great job with this, but I'm noticing we're getting a little bit of a bifurcation in the Blueprint world. So, I'm not seeing this isn't in desk yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you've kind of got the blueprints. Where do we have now? We got blueprints in desk, CRM.
Where else? Basic ones in projects, the blueprinting tasks.
Right. It's interesting. I'd like to see that come together a little bit. Tell you on another just total side tangent here. Talk to somebody that built a Zoho CRM app in the what's it called? It's not. It's you basically can build a completely verticalized CRM. Zoho will work with you on it. It's completely customized for whatever that vertical is, and it goes in the Zoho market, and it's got its own price, right? So whatever that price is, it's got its price, and people can buy that application, and it's pretty cool because you can spend a lot of time, do some heavy customization. And this is not a copy customization thing. This is you're actually buying the app. So I was looking at it, and really interesting part of that is when you buy the app's frozen. It's frozen in time. So when you build the app, so it doesn't support the new interface. It doesn't support any of the new things that are there. So it's kind of like locked in time there, which is kind of not good, I think, from a user
maybe
perspective.
The developer would need to push an update or something to the app with the new functionality.
I guess you'd have to completely redo it. It's something really to be looked at, right? To see what you can do there. I was talking about it's a little, we're kind of going back and forth, but it's interesting. One of the good things I thought about the call, we actually had a great little Zoho did a kind of an Ask Me Anything and an update for partners this week that we can't talk about. But what I think we can generally talk about is there's going to be much more consistency across applications and all of those kind of things. And I think they're working to roll all that stuff out, and that's going to be really helpful down the line. All right. And then Zoho BackStage. This is, we get these little interesting updates for BackStage, but they've been doing a lot of things where like, hey, you've got a VIP section and only they can do this. And now they've kind of taken this to an extra layer of exclusivity where even if you had the right link and you had the right code and you had everything, if you're not on the guest list, you're out. So basically you can have this entire list. If your email address does not match one of the email addresses on this specific code, then it won't work for you either. So you could get a code from somebody and it's going to be completely gone. So, or, just won't work when you try to register for the event. So, BackStage, I'm not sure what there is left to do on this app. I mean, right now it's just been a lot of polish that kind of gets put on it because it's a pretty well thought out app.
Yep, this kind of just adds, another layer. So, again, basically what this is doing is, let's say you wanted to give out a promo code to certain influencer groups, but you wanted to make sure that they couldn't just share this code around with all their friends, right? So they all take advantage of a certain promo code. You can basically say this promo code can only apply for this set of people that we've specifically invited to use it. Yep. So again, it's just more and more layers of control that you're able to add into your event management. So it's pretty slick.
Yeah, and I just noticed this down here at the bottom, but it's kind of big. Stripe is now available over in BackStage, which is nice. Nice. It's kind of one of the interesting things with these payment gateways. Zoho basically has to go through with every one of these payment gateway providers and get it approved and integrated for every single application. And it can be kind of frustrating. People like, hey, why does Stripe work over here and not here? And I think Stripe is currently the 800-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to kind of just generic payment processing. So good to see that got done as well. And then if it's the beginning of the month, we start to get kind of new updates, what's going on. So Zoho inventory as a whole bunch of new things that are that are hitting warehouse access restrictions and pick lists, and Google Shopping integration. That was kind of the big one. But a lot of things here. Inventory is getting better and better as we kind of go down the line. There's a lot of little things in here. Update after ship, track shipment status manually. These are a lot of little things that we hear from customers where it's like, man, it needs to do this, and starting to see them kind of being addressed slowly but surely.
Yeah, it's still not quite that kind of full ERP system, but for kind of basic inventory management, and especially more and more for e-commerce. It seems like it's a really powerful tool with the integrations they already have with Amazon and now adding Google Shopping. I think that's a pretty compelling use case.
Yeah, and I imagine I didn't read through the Google piece here, but with Amazon, Amazon becomes its own warehouse. So you can track what's in the Amazon warehouse. You can do it through the Amazon as well, but it's actually tracked inside your Zoho inventory. So I would say you're absolutely correct. On the e-commerce side, they're kind of crushing it. And then let's talk about Bigin again. They got Zoho Forms integration. So there you go. Just yet another application kind of slowly being added in. I guess we should make a list of what's not integrated anymore, because it seems like every week they've got one new integration finalized across the Zoho suite.
Yeah, and Zoho Forms is, again, kind of the one size fits all entry point into any database, right? That kind of exists inside of Zoho. So it makes sense. You can drop your leads or contacts just directly into Bigin using this integration. And they did roll it out with the related lists enabled, so you could create like an account and contact. So really, it is a kind of full featured integration, similar to what you have with the CRM.
Yep, and Zoho Forms getting better and better as well, as we kind of go through that and talk about it. And then we have our books update for November. Not really a lot here. A couple nice updates for the Indian marketplace. You've got e-invoicing. Really, for the rest of the globe, you've got some new reports. You've got a payable summary and a payable detail reports. And I think these are kind of nice. You've got new customization options you can group by, entity filter. You've got the entity selection, you've got filters, you can show and hide columns. These are things you can't really do in a lot of reporting. So I'd like to see those things rolled out. And I'd also like to see the ability to kind of add columns. But, books reporting has been rather limited. And I think most of the time we end up, if anybody wants to do serious reporting in books, it ends up going into analytics. But nice to see these kind of enhancements being made into the base books product.
Yeah, absolutely. Though they are kind of, again, the simpler versions of some of these reports. The nice thing about having them in analytics is they can actually link to all these specific records that kind of create them. So definitely nice to have those there on quick access. So keep them coming, Zoho.
All right, let's move on to some mobile app news. We'll start with Bigin. It had a change to its calls module so that it actually matches the calls module on the desktop application. They did it for both iOS and Android, but it basically is just pulling in the general calls module and allows you to log the call the same way you would internally inside if you were on the desktop. Not a lot really to say about that, huh?
Consistency is always good.
It is good. And then we haven't talked about this in a while. There was a period of time, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago, where Zoho was kind of on an Unsplash binge. So if you don't know, Unsplash is this free photo library. There's millions and millions of high resolution images, and you can use them in your presentations. And, I think they have it integrated with Writer, and they had it integrated with definitely with Show. And there was a couple other applications where we used where it was nice integrations. You just wanted to grab a nice image to kind of spice some stuff up. And now they're going on that road, and they've added it to the Zoho Show iOS app. So you've kind of got this full nice integration with Unsplash, and it's nice. I tell you what, it's not Zoho Show here, but whether it's PowerPoint or Google Slides or any of those, I have a real hard time doing them on my phone. I think I've got no trouble doing them on my iPad. That works out great. And this also goes to iPad as well. So it's pretty good. But man, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I have a hard time creating presentations on a phone.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever what I'd want to. Maybe it's those finishing touches, on the bus into the office. But I think for me, that's a desktop action.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing they do have on this show app is if you are an iOS person and you've got an Apple TV or something that where you can actually do Apple from your phone, you can sling the presentation up to the screen and you can use the phone as the remote control to flip through your sides. I know a lot of them do that, but it's really well thought out and kind of a full-featured application. So nice little update there as well. All right, and then the Zoho Projects iOS app adds completion percentage tracking. What do you think?
This is basically just another way to kind of organize and track your projects. This is something that you can do in the desktop apps. I think they're trying to just bring it into parity. But it's basically just allowing you to track your projects based on task or issue completion. So you're able to kind of sort and view them in that way in the iOS app now. So overall, kind of a minor update, but definitely one that's nice to see just because you never want to have someone pull up the app on their phone and not be able to do, something that they can do over on the desktop. So the more that you can keep those in parity, the better.
Yeah, and they've been on a tear lately with projects. I mean, a whole new interface. The iOS app and the Android app are all getting quite a few updates. So it's good to see. And that brings us to the implementation of the week. What do we got?
Yes, this was the implementation we did, kind of tying Zoho CRM into Trustpilot, using Zoho Flow. And so basically what this does is, Trustpilot is a pretty large and established group for doing your customer surveys. And you can build out whole suites of templates and different review types and, anything that you'd want to review someone on, whether it's a good or a service, right? You can send all those out via Trustpilot. And so just not too long ago, Trustpilot created an integration with Zoho Flow where you can basically trigger those, requests for review to go out. And what we did here is basically create a Zoho Flow that triggers on a webhook. Webhooks are kind of our easy way to, on any action in the CRM, basically write over to Flow and make some stuff happen somewhere else. So what we did is, based on some workflow criteria, like which types of products are being sold, when we're starting versus when we're finishing an implementation, we can actually trigger, the proper invite for review from Trustpilot to go out to the relevant contact. So it's pretty nice. I mean, they just kind of rolled out the Trustpilot integration. So it is still technically in beta, but it seems to be rock solid so far. And, all those reviews are going out smoothly. So it's a pretty nice one, again, just because it's, driven by the CRM workflows, which means that, you have all the logic power that you need to send the right review. And then they're just basically writing, directly out through Flow to send them off to the customers.
That's nice. And you can, but does it automatically post Trustpilot? So does it post to the various review sites?
Well, so that would be that you just set that up through Trustpilot, kind of integrate it with your site to show all the different product or service reviews. But yeah, I mean, it basically triggers it exactly the same as if you were to go in and manually send it. So then all those people's reviews will just flow right into anywhere that you are displaying them.
Nice. All right. Well, before we move on to the read of the week, I want to talk a little bit about crmzen.com. So our new site is up, and if you haven't had a chance to check it out, we are putting a lot of work into this every week. So this entire show, everything we've done is basically in the news section. So if you go to the news tab, you can see basically in order of everything we've talked about here. We are, we're putting these up in real time during the day as we find them. So, we love for you to listen to the show. And of course, you want to get the newsletter where we summarize all this, but we're kind of keeping it all going in real time here. And it's worth looking at. And then the events, this is truly kind of a labor of love for us. We are just digging deep to find every single Zoho related event that we can find. And we also post those under the events tab. So take a look here because there's a lot going on. We found this one from the Business Clinic is putting managing products versus projects with Sridhar Vimbu. Now, granted, it's, the times on some of these are a little odd because we're pulling them in from all over the world. A lot of them are coming out of India, but we're taking a look at. We're going as far forward as we can. It looks like we, the one of the things I've noticed about Zoho and everybody is they don't really. Their webinars are like now. They put a link out and the webinar is in 3 days. So it's really kind of something where you want to, you kind of want to go check it out because it's a pretty, there's not a lot of warning on these things and they really come and go. And they also post them all over the place. There's no kind of central place to post them at all. So anyway, a lot going in here. And of course you can always check out the store, where we've got all of our crazy merchandise. So check that out as well. Still waiting for that first order. We'll see if we get that or not. But by the way, the whole team's getting it this week, Tyler. So I'm going to mail all that out this weekend.
Looking forward to my mug.
Everybody can look forward to that. All right. That brings us to this week's read. This is from Zoho, and basically it's how to use colors effectively in email marketing. It's by Susmit. Zoho does that, kind of no last names, I don't know if that's last first, but there it is. But wow, what a great job. Kudos to Susmit out there because this is just part one, but he kind of does a deep dive on what stands out, what doesn't stand out, why you want to use colors, how you should separate things, what you should do. There's a thing with call to action buttons with non-neutral colors as opposed to call to action buttons with neutral colors and how that can jump. And, the next one is, and then they talk just a lot here. And then they're going to go into real, I think, life examples in the next part of this. But, I got to say, sometimes I get some really, really ugly emails, newsletters, calls to action. It would be nice to see this kind of stuff implemented by more people. So if you're doing these kind of things, I think it's worth taking a look at.
Yeah, overall a good article. I mean, it's interesting to see over the past couple of months, Zoho putting more and more into creating content that isn't specifically about the app, right? It says over there on the campaigns kind of forum or blog, but it's not specifically talking about the application, just some good tips and tricks for, kind of color coding your marketing.
Yeah. And that's, we go to HubSpot a lot, not because we want to, because they do this kind of content, right? Just this really, really great general sales and marketing content that we think is going to be, pretty valuable to our listeners. And speaking of that, let's talk about what we've got over at Zenatta.com. Basically, this blog title, it's upgrade from free mail with Zoho Mail. What this really is it's talking about how you can use the new Zoho Mail client as just that, an email client. So Zoho Mail in the past, in order to use it, you really had to have a Zoho Mail account. That was it, period. Your mail had to be hosted with Zoho. And now that it's just a straight up IMAP client, you can pretty much move anything over there with it. And so this kind of goes through that and talks about how to get that going and set it up and what some of the advantages are as well. And then we have been continuing to find our resource guide. So tracking lead behavior in your website. This is basically, a nice little Zoho piece. I would imagine this is either going to be on Sales IQ or what do you think?
Looks like Marketing Hub. Looks like some of the Marketing Hub tools.
It does look like Marketing Hub. So another nice little 36-page guide here, which is pretty good. And then we've also got one on real-time project management, monitoring, and tracking sales teams. And this is using CRM Plus and just a nice guide. So I don't know where we find all this stuff. It's out there, but we are on a mission to categorize all of these PDFs that are kind of randomly laying all over the place and bring them into one central place to make it easier for everybody to kind of go through them. All right, and that brings us to our application of the week, which is by one of our listeners who's almost always on the live show, but not today. But Frank, anyway, here you go. Unroll Me. I have to tell you, I love this application. I have been using it for a week and it is just great. What this does is it's free. And if I did a lot of Google on it, they had a lot of issues. They were kind of selling data. They were selling specific data on users in the past as a monetization process. Now they're selling anonymized data. basically to go trends and those kind of things. But what does this application do? It basically reads your entire inbox and lets you determine whether you would like to unsubscribe from something or keep it in your inbox or add it to a roll up. And it's pretty cool. It's just, I have to tell you, it couldn't be more simple on how it goes through things. It just it's just quick, and you basically just have a button which is unsubscribe, keep in my inbox, add to a roll up. Now, if you add it to a roll up, what that does is it's just basically going to take all those emails and give you a nice, concise overview of all of them. And you can kind of just quickly scan the ones you want in a roll up. So maybe it's a newsletter that you don't particularly want to unsubscribe from, but you're tired of getting it every day. Then it's just going to kind of pop into this little roll up. I'm like that way with AppSumo, which is a great company that gives you great deals on SaaS software, but I feel like I get a little too much email from them. It comes in. So this way I can kind of scan it. It's out of my inbox. But wow, this thing has overnight in 1 week just cleaned up the junk in my inbox. I think I must have unsubscribed. I can't even remember the amount of, like, 235 unsubscribes that it was able to find. And you want to talk about your inbox getting clean? Well, this does it, and it does it really, really, really quickly.
And with how much time everyone spends in email on a day-to-day basis, something like this is really actually saving you a significant amount of time. I mean, on a day-to-day.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I tell you, here's a features list that I don't think I pointed out. I just tell you what, I can't get enough of it. Just go to unroll.me, check it out, try it. If you got privacy issues, maybe not, but otherwise, I got to tell you, it looks pretty good across the board. All right, and that brings us to our tips and tricks too. So, kind of following up on our Zoho Books webinar that we did at the end of October, we kind of had some outstanding questions that were asked, and we made some kind of additional tips for these. I think last week was, how basically you can invoice directly from the CRM, and we stepped you all the way through that. That was a question. And then we kind of glossed over user roles and permissions because we didn't have time. So I kind of made a separate video kind of covering user roles and permissions and how to set that up as well. This is really kind of ties into the other tip of the week from last week. So if you have salespeople in your CRM, and you want them to be able to send estimates and invoices, but to do that, they actually have to have access to Zoho Books. But of course, you don't maybe want them to see your bank balances or who you're paying or what people's payroll. You can go in and completely limit their access to say they only have access to estimates, invoices, sales orders, and maybe they can create, but they can't delete. You can get very granular with what you're doing. This kind of steps you through how to go ahead and do that. And then we've got building a Zoho Marketplace extension. So number 4 in this series came out this week. And this is basically how to use the whole Zoho developer platform using Zoho Sigma and building an entire app. This is for Zoho Desk. But so I went back and I looked at all of the other pieces of this article. And if you're thinking about building an extension, this is really a great place to start. It's a step-by-step guide on how to build an extension. And you can just kind of go, I would definitely start at the very beginning of all of this and kind of go through it. But it's nice. And with more stuff going into the Zoho Marketplace, I think it's definitely worth taking a look at.
Yeah, they've really kind of nurtured a huge explosion of all these different extensions and applications being rolled out. From the original launch of Sigma and Catalyst, now, training and helping people set these things up for themselves. It's really cool what they're doing there to extend the functionality, with integrating Zoho with these outside tools.
Yeah, and we didn't talk about it on the show, but Zoho actually was given the low code of Visionary by Gartner. So I think I've actually go to the Zoho blog here instead. So so Zoho's journey to become a visionary. They're positioned in the visionary quadrant in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for low-code application platforms, which the entire Sigma and their entire development platform is. And it's good stuff. They're they're just chugging along with this. All right. And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening today. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to us over at info@zenatta.com, or just head on over to the website and drop us a line.
And on the website is where you'll find complete episodes as well as show notes with links to the stories we discussed today. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platform and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app as well as on YouTube. We'll see you next Monday.